Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Blessed be the name of Yah on this Sabbath day. The title of today's lesson is The Gates of the Holy City. The Gates of the Holy City. Yah's Temple, God's House, Part 3. Once again, today's title is The Gates of the Holy City, Yah's Temple, God's House, Part 3. Brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws, don't turn to the left or to the right, or you might get hit in the mouth. We've been getting hit in the mouth for centuries. It's about time we walk the straight way of the Most High's commandments. Now grab your books as usual, and we will start off in the book of Ezekiel. Turn to the book of Ezekiel, and we will start off with chapter 40. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 40. And we will read verse 1 through 4. Verse 1 through 4 of Ezekiel chapter 40. And verse 1 of Ezekiel chapter 40 reads, In the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year, after that, the city was smitten in the selfsame day, and the hand of Yah was upon me, and brought me thither. Verse 2. In the visions of Yah brought he me unto the land of Israel, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as the frame of the city on the south. Now, let's be clear in this verse exactly where Ezekiel was taken. Let me reread that. In the vision of Yah brought he me into the land of Israel. He did not take him into the sky in heaven, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as the frame of a city on the south. So Ezekiel is in a vision, and he was taken to Israel. That is a land mass, a geographical location that's on the earth. Verse 3. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed, and he stood in the gate. That's verse 3. Verse 4. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I shall show thee. For to the intent that I might show them unto thee art thou brought hither. Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel. So Ezekiel is taken up in this vision, okay? And this angel has a measuring reed, okay? He's making up measurements to the holy city, all right? And Ezekiel is being instructed to take heed to everything that he sees and hears. And he is to take all of this information and put it in a book that we're reading. And that book and that information is to be given to the children of Israel, not the whole wide world. So we understand what's taking place here. Excuse me. Let's jump directly. We're staying in the same chapter. Let's jump to chapter 30, verse 39, excuse me. Verse 39 of the very same chapter. And verse 39 reads, And in the porch of the gate were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, to slay thereon the burnt offerings and the sin offerings and the trespass offering. Now, I wanted to read that verse so everyone understands clearly that the house of Israel are not vegans. Okay, we have those in Demona right now that have returned to the land. They are strictly vegan. Once this third temple is built, the sacrifices put on, the Levites put into their place, and everyone is returned back to their estate, okay, or their land of inheritance. These sacrifices will be put on, and the priest, the Levites of the dedicated things, they have to eat of that. And a lot of that, and a lot of it is meat, is lamb, goat, and things like that. So there's no such thing as the house of of Israel being vegetarians. There is no such thing. Now let's go to verse 45 and verse 46 of the very same chapter. Okay, verse 45 of Ezekiel chapter 40 reads, "And he said unto me, This chamber, whose prospect is towards the south, is for the priest, and the keepers of the charge of the house." Verse 46, "And the chamber whose prospect is towards the north is for the priest, the keepers of the charge of the altar. These are the sons of Zadok, among the sons of Levi, which come near to Yah to minister unto him." Remember with Eli's seed was stripped. Okay, high priest now comes out of the seed of Zadok. Okay, so you have an area in verse 45 is strictly for priests, but these are priests, the Levites, who had went against the Most High's instruction. Okay, so what they cannot do, they will take sacrifice and they will minister unto the people. But what they cannot do, they cannot minister directly unto the Most High in dealing with his altar. That is specifically for the sons of Zadok, the seed of Zadok. Okay, so when it comes to dealing with the altar, those men only can deal with that specifically because they minister directly unto the Most High. Keynote to take from this: there is no such thing as a woman priest pertaining to the Most High, or pastor, anything like that. Okay, these priests of the Most High are men, always have been, always will be. So if you're claiming to be a priest, a pastor, anything like that, and you're a female, you are incorrect according to the Most High's law. And if you are following such a person, you too are walking out of the way. All right, now let's move over to Ezekiel chapter 42. Ezekiel chapter 42, and we will read verse 13 and verse 14. Ezekiel chapter 42, verse 13 and 14. Verse 13 reads, "Then said he unto me, The north chamber and the south chambers, which are before the separate place, they be holy chambers, where the priests that approach unto Yah shall eat the most holy things." That's all the holy dedicated things to the house of Israel. "There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meat offerings, and the sin offerings, and the trespass offerings, for the place is holy." Now, reading this part to reiterate one point. This is the area where they will put all the dedicated things and where they shall eat it. These are the priests. Notice, these are for meat offerings and for sin offerings. So if in the latter days, in this holy city, you will have the temple, you will have the house of Israel, all of them returning to their former estate, and we have Levites that are eating meat offerings and sin offerings that we offer up to them, it is clear that no one ever died for you. No one ever washed away your sins and died for you. It is nonsense. Verse 14. "When the priests enter therein, then shall they not go out of the holy place into the utter court, but there they shall lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy, and shall put on other garments, and shall approach those things which are for the people." So once the priests have done all their holy duties in the most holy place, once they approach anything pertaining to the people or the people themselves, they're not to be in the same raiment. They're not to be in the same garment. They're not to be in the same clothing in which they were dealing with the holy things in the holy place. They're to change their clothes. Okay? That's to reiterate that point. All right, now let's go. Moving down one chapter. We're going through a few chapters of Ezekiel, okay, to kind of establish a few things pertaining to the Most High's house, the laws of his house, and those who will be in his city. Okay, let's go to chapter 43, and we'll read verse 5 through 12. Ezekiel chapter 43. Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 5 reads, So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of Yah filled the house. This is the Most High's temple. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house. And the man stood by me, one of those angels. Okay. Verse 7. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, is Most High speaking, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings, correct term, governors, prince, okay, or captain, by their whoredoms, nor by the carcasses of their kings, captains, okay, or princes in their high places. Now, let me reread and reiterate what is being said here. Okay, the man is stood by Ezekiel, and the Most High is speaking. He said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel. The Most High is letting us know here plainly that he dwells in the midst of us, just like he did in the days of old. We are not being taken up into the sky and dwelling in the midst of the Most High in heaven. This is a lie. Okay? So let this one verse here, and there's many of them, reiterate and prove that point and validate it. Verse 8. In their setting of their threshold by my thresholds, and their post by my post, and the wall between me and them, they have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. That's why we're being killed and subjected to hardship in all these many nations in which we have been scattered. Verse 9. Now let them put away their whoredoms and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. So we have to put away the idolatry and every form of abominable thing away. And once we do those things, the Most High will dwell in the midst of us forevermore, here on the earth, in the kingdom, in Jerusalem, on this earth, not in the sky. Okay, we're not dwelling with him. He's dwelling with us. Let's make this clear. Verse 10. Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. Verse 11. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the coming in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinance thereof, and do them. Verse 12. This is the law of the house upon the top of the mountain, Zion, the whole limit thereof, round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. So the Most High's house has specific dimensions, has specific ordinances, has specific laws going in and going out, etc., etc. Okay, there's no house on the earth that has these dimensions. There's no house on the earth that has these laws. This house is established in one place, Mount Moriah. That place that you go to called a church is not the house of the Most High. Now, verse 19 of the very same chapter. Let's jump down to verse 19. And verse 19 reads of Ezekiel chapter 43. And thou shalt give to the priests the Levites that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me to minister unto me, saith Yah, a young bullock for a sin offering. Once again, if the seed of Zadok has to present a sin offering on the behalf of his house and the behalf of the entire house of Israel, once again, no one has ever died for you. All of this is taking part in the latter days when we have been reestablished in Jerusalem. So you understand that. Now let's jump down to verse 26 and verse 27 of the same chapter. Verse 26 reads, 7 days shall they purge the altar and purify it, and they shall consecrate themselves. These are the Levites. Verse 27, and when these days are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day and so forward, the priest shall make your burnt offerings upon the altar and your peace offerings, and I will accept you, saith Yah. Let me reread verse 27. And when these days are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day, 7 days we have to cleanse the altar. All right, 7 days to cleanse it and purge it. On the 8th day, it shall be so forward, the priest shall make your burnt offerings upon the altar and your peace offerings, and I will accept you, saith Yah. So there's no acceptance of the house of Israel until these things are done. Once again, we cannot on our own, by our own devices, come before the Most High and just get ourselves purged. Clearly, you'll understand by reading this, no one has ever died for you to wipe your sins away. So once this temple is established, we are in Jerusalem, back in the land. The Most High is dwelling in the midst of the house of Israel in his temple. We have put away all the vanities and the idols that we've been so in love with. Once those Levites purge that altar, cleanse it, sanctifies it after that first 7 days, on the 8th day, then the Levites will present that offering, that sin offering for us. Okay? And that's when the Most High will accept us, because the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, they are the go-between between the house of Israel and the Most High. They are his direct ministers. They are his servants. Okay? So understand that once they do that on the behalf of the entire house of Israel, then the Most High will accept us. Okay? So we cannot just have our sins just wiped away. The Levites, the sons of the Zadok, are the ones that will atone on our behalf. So you understand that. Now, moving right along to the next chapter, Ezekiel chapter 44, and we will read verse 1 through 5. Verse 1 through 5 of Ezekiel chapter 44, and we're dealing with the east gate. Verse 44, chapter 44, verse 1 of Ezekiel chapter 44. Let's read verse 1. Then he brought me back. He brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looketh towards the east, and it was shut. Verse 2. Then said Yah unto me, this gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because Yah, the strong one of Israel, has entered in by it, therefore it shall be shut. So this is the east gate. Most High came in through this gate, so no man's allowed to go in and out through this gate. Verse 3. It is for the prince. That's the correct term. Normally you see the word king. The book of Kings, hey, there's but one king of the earth, and that's the Most High. The book of Kings, 1st Kings, 2nd Kings, these are not kings. These are governors, these are princes, and these are captains of the people. Okay, so right here, the correct term is used, the prince. You call him the king. That would be the seed of David. Okay, so verse 3, it is for the prince. The prince, he shall sit in it to eat bread before Yah. He shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. So on the east gate, there's a porch there. And the governor, the prince, who you incorrectly call the king, he will eat bread before the Most High, but he goes in and out of that way by means of the porch. All right. So that is clear to you. All right. Now, verse 4. Then brought he me the way of the north gate before the house. And I looked, and behold, the glory of Yah filled the house of Yah, and I fell upon my face. Verse 5. And Yah said unto me, Son of man, mark well and behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears all that I say unto thee concerning all the ordinances of the house of Yah, and all the laws thereof. And mark well the entering in of the house, with every going forth of the sanctuary. So once again, same thing we read earlier in Ezekiel, where he was to take heed of all the laws and the ordinances pertaining to the house, the going back and forth within the Most High's house. All right. Now, we were at verse 44. Now, chapter 44, verse 1 through 5. Now, let's jump over to Ezekiel chapter 45, one chapter down. Now, before I do that, as you read Ezekiel chapter 44, as you read it, it speaks to all of the house of Israel, allowing strangers in the congregation. That's an absolute no-no. Okay? It speaks to all the laws and statutes pertaining to the Levites. This is all chapter 44. Chapter 44 also speaks to Eli, who disobeyed the Most High's word, allowed his sons to run amok of the Most High's law, and the Most High had to pretty much do away with Eli and switched over to the seed of Zadok. And so it speaks to the seed of Zadok and his sons, okay, taking over the priesthood. All of this and all the laws and statutes pertaining to the priest are listed in Ezekiel chapter 44, okay? So make sure you read that in its entirety for clarity. Now let's go to Ezekiel chapter 45, and we will read verse 1 through 8. And this is the holy land, the holy oblation to Yah. Okay, verse 45, chapter 45, chapter 45, I'm going to deal with verse 1. Moreover, when ye shall divide by lot the land for inheritance, ye shall offer an oblation unto Yah, an holy portion of land. The length shall be the length of 25,000 reeds, and the breadth shall be 10,000. This shall be holy in all the borders thereof round about. That's verse 1. So, as Israel is instructed to divide the land by an inheritance for the tribes, before that happens, a holy portion is given to Yah. The holy portion is given to the Most High. Okay? So, and from those dimensions, then everyone else is given their land mass after that. But the first thing that happens is an holy oblation. There's a specific land mass that's dedicated to the Most High specifically. All right, so you know that. Verse 2. Of this there shall be for the sanctuary 500 in length, with 500 in breadth. This is pretty much a square. Square round about, and 50 cubits round about for the suburbs thereof. Verse 3. And of this measure shalt thou measure the length of 25,000, and the breadth of 10,000. And in it shall be the sanctuary and the most holy place. So of this dedicated land, this land mass that's dedicated to the Most High, it is all holy land. And in that land mass, that holy oblation is where the sanctuary and the most holy place is located. Verse 4. The holy portion of the land shall be for the priest, the ministers of the sanctuary, which shall come near to minister unto Yah. And it shall be a place for their houses, and a holy place for the sanctuary. So specifically here in verse 4 of Ezekiel chapter 45, this is where Zadok and his seed is going to dwell. How do we know this? Because these are the ones that directly minister unto the Most High. And the only of the Levites that can do this are the seeds of Zadok. Okay, so in this holy landmass, this holy oblation, okay, this land that was given to the Most High before Israel gets its inheritance. Okay, there you have the sanctuary, and there you have the dwelling places of the sons of Zadok and Levites as a whole. Okay, verse 5. In the 5,020,000 of length and the 10,000 of breadth shall also the Levites, the ministers of the house, have for themselves for a possession 20 chambers. So, verse 4 is where you have the seed of Zadok, him and his sons, those who directly minister unto the Most High. They've got their portion in that land, in that holy land where they live. Now you've got the rest of the Levites, keepers of the house. Okay, they're still priests, but what they cannot do, they cannot approach the Most High's altar because of what they did and what the Most High had to do to them at Shiloh, if you remember that. Okay, so they have a possession of 20 chambers. Okay, they're totally separate from what Zadok and his seed has. Verse 6. And ye shall appoint the possession of the city 5,000 broad and 25,000 long, over against the oblation of the holy portion. It shall be for the whole house of Israel. So you have the sanctuary, and in the midst thereof, you have those Levites with their possessions on that landmass, on the holy landmass. And then around all of that, you have the house of Israel, their various tribes, and their inheritance. All right, we're reading to verse 8. We're now at verse 7. And a portion shall be for the prince. That's where the quote-unquote king is going to be, that seed of David. Okay, he's going to have his portion on the one side and on the other side of the oblation of the holy portion, and of the possession of the city, before the oblation of the holy portion, and before the possession of the city, from the west side westward, and from the east side eastward. And the length shall be over against one of the portions, from the west border unto the east border. Verse 8. In the land shall be his possession. So the governor, the prince, the captain, who you call the king, who will be of the seed of David, he has his portion of land also that's allocated to him. I will read verse 8. In that land shall be his possession in Israel, and my princes shall no more oppress my people, and the rest of the land shall they give to the house of Israel according to their tribes. Okay, so the governor, the prince, the captain, who you call the king, he gets his land, and the rest of Israel get their land as well. Okay, all the other families of the house of Israel. Now, we're still in Ezekiel chapter 45. Let's jump to verse 18. We will read verse 18 and 20. Still in Ezekiel chapter 45. But we will read verse 18 and verse 20. Verse 18 of Ezekiel chapter 45 reads, Thus saith Yah, in the first month, in the first day of the month, thou shalt take a young bullock without blemish and cleanse the sanctuary. So, New Year's Day, and we know the year begins in the month of Abib, which is April. Okay, there's no such thing as the year begins in January, the dead of winter. Your enemies have taught you that. It is incorrect. Okay, the beginning of months to us is the month of Abib. Look it up. Okay, once again, verse 18. Thus saith Yah, in the first month, that's the month of Abib. Okay, time frame April. In the first day of the month, thou shalt take a young bullock without blemish and cleanse the sanctuary. So we're to cleanse the sanctuary on the first day of the year. And the priest shall take of the blood of the sin offering and put it upon the post of the house, and upon the four corners of the settle of the altar, and upon the post of the gate of the inner court. And so thou shalt do the seventh day of the month for everyone that erreth, and for him that is simple. So shall ye reconcile the house. So we're to do this on the first, okay? And we should also do it on the seventh day of the month for everyone that makes an error, that sins, that's walking incorrectly. So once again, these two verses is simply to reiterate, Okay, the importance of the blood of the sacrificial animal. It atones for our sins. No one ever died for us. That makes this plain for the millionth time. Okay, and secondly, it shows clear here that the Levites atones for us. And it's the blood of that sacrificial animal that atones for us. And that's why we were instructed not to forsake the Levites within our gates. And we were instructed specifically not to eat any manner of blood. And should blood be spilled upon the earth, if you were hunting, you are to cover that blood up with dirt. It is the life of the animal. So we have that clear. All right. Now we've done verse 18 and 20. Let's move over to Ezekiel chapter 46. Okay, skipping and putting a few important parts of chapters. Ezekiel 46, and we will read verse 1 through verse 4. Ezekiel chapter 46, reading verse 1 through verse 4. And verse 1 reads, Thus saith Yah, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut the 6 working days. But on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. So for 6 days that gate will be shut. It will be open on the Sabbath day, okay? And it also will be open in the new moon. Verse 2, and the prince, governor, captain, who you call the king, the prince, that seed of David, shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate without, and shall stand by the post of the gate. And the priest shall prepare him burnt offering, shall prepare his burnt offering, and his peace offering, and he shall worship at the threshold of the gate. Then he shall go forth by the gate. He shall go forth, but the gate shall not be shut until the evening. Verse 3, likewise the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yah in the Sabbath and in the new moon. And the burnt offering and the burnt offering that the prince shall offer unto Yah in the Sabbath day shall be 6 lambs without blemish and a ram without blemish. So on the Sabbath day, the prince is to offer specifically 6 lambs without blemish, and a ram without blemish. We are to come to this gate to worship on the Sabbaths and on the new moon. Okay, so this is specifically for this gate. All right, and this is the gate that the prince goes in and out of by way of the porch. Now, let's deal with, still in Ezekiel chapter 46. We're going to go to verse 8 and verse 9. Verse 8 of Ezekiel chapter 46. And when the prince shall enter, he shall go in by the way of the porch of that gate, and he shall go forth by the way thereof. So he's going to come and go by the same way. That prince will. Verse 9. But when the people of the land shall come before Yah in the solemn feast, he that enter in by the way of the north gate to worship shall go out by the way of the south gate. And he that enter by the way of the south gate shall go forth by the way of the north gate. He shall not return by the way of the gate whereby he came in, but shall go forth over against it. Okay, so when dealing with the Most High's temple, you come in one way, you leave out another way. You don't come in the same way and leave the same way. If you remember that man from Judah, failure to follow instruction will lead to your own destruction. That prophet was instructed clearly, do not go in to this city and come out by the same way. He was instructed to go on one way and leave another route. Okay, if you remember that instance well. Now, let's go to verse 12. Same chapter, Ezekiel chapter 46. Okay, and let's deal with some of the everyday offerings that will be taking place at this temple. All right, Ezekiel 46, and we're looking at verse 12 and through verse 15. Verse 12 reads, Now when the prince shall prepare a voluntary burnt offering or peace offering voluntarily unto Yah, one shall then open him the gate that looketh towards the east, and he shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offering, as he did on the Sabbath day. Then he shall go forth, and after his going forth, one shall shut the gate. So this gate, which is the east gate, okay, when the prince, the seed of David, makes a voluntary offering unto the Most High, someone opens the gate for him and closes the gate for him. More than likely, that's someone doing that is a Levite. Okay. Verse 13. Thou shalt daily prepare a burnt offering unto Yah of a lamb of the first year without blemish. Thou shalt prepare it every morning. So we are to prepare a lamb every morning without blemish, okay, to the Most High. That's every day. So that's one of those everyday ordinances of the temple, okay. Verse 14. And thou shalt prepare a meat offering for it every morning, the sixth part of an ephah, and a third part of a hin of oil, to temper with the fine flour, a meat offering continually by a perpetual ordinance unto Yah. Perpetual, forever. Once that temple is erected, we are to do this daily. Okay. Verse 15. Thus shall they prepare the lamb and the meat offering in the oil every morning for a continual burnt offering. So these is letting you know some of the things that's taking place in the Most High's house every morning. You have your sacrifices you have to offer daily. These are part of those ordinances. Okay. Now let's move to Ezekiel chapter 47 and deal with the healing waters. Okay, we're going to deal with the healing waters in Ezekiel chapter 47. All right. Ezekiel chapter 47 reads. All right. We'll read Ezekiel chapter 47. We'll start at verse 1. Afterward, he brought me again unto the door of the house, and behold, water issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward. So remember, the east gate is that gate that the Most High came through, so no man goes in and out of that gate. Okay? So this is letting you know exactly. The water issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward. For the front of the house stood towards the east, and the waters came down from under from the right side of the house, at the south side of the altar. Verse 2. Then brought he me out of the way of the gate northward, and led me about the way without, unto the other gate, by the way that looketh eastward. And behold, there ran out waters on the right side. So you have waters being issued out of the temple. Okay. And when the man that had the line in his hand went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. The waters were to the ankles. So Ezekiel is in this vision. The man took him to the waters. He comes out in the waters. He's standing his ankle deep. Verse 4. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters, and the waters were to the knees. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters, were to the loins, up to the groin area, okay, to the hip area. Verse 5. Afterward, he brought me 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass over, for the waters were risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed over. And he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. All right. Verse 7. Now, when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees, on the one side and on the other. Then said he unto me, These waters issued out towards the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. So the waters of the seas and the rivers, the waters and everything that live in it, are destroyed and being destroyed by the chemicals in the water, okay, and all the different things, the nuclear waste, etc. Okay, so the earth languishes, it mourns, the forest, the trees, the rivers, the atmosphere, etc., because of what those who have dominion in the earth right now, because of what they're doing. They're destroying the earth. So once this third temple is built, there will be healing waters coming forth out of the temple that will have to heal the entire waters of the earth, because those in the dominion of the earth right now, those that have the dominion, have pretty much destroyed it. Okay, verse 9. And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither. For they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. So that river that's going to be issued out of the temple, wherever those waters go that's coming out of the temple, is going to heal those waters, and anything that's in those waters shall live. Okay, verse 10. And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En Gedi even unto En Eglaim. There shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kind, and the fish of the great sea exceedingly many. All right, so this is letting you know there's going to be healing waters coming out. Once again, these healing waters are coming out of the sanctuary, okay? And it's going to heal all the waters of the earth. We'll go ahead and finish up reading the rest of this, okay? But the married places thereof and the marishes thereof shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. So these trees, okay, the leaves of them will be for medicine. And so not only will the waters heal the fish in the sea, heal the sea itself, it will also heal all those plants, trees, and animals, etc., that has access to those waters. Now, we know that the house of Israel, or Israel himself, had 12 boys. Okay, so 12 sons. Now, a son is given a double portion. Reuben is the firstborn, but he lost his birthright because he slept with his father's concubine. So the birthright was given Joseph. So Joseph is given a double portion. This is how you have 13 tribes. Take out the tribe of Levi because they were not given an inheritance, and that's how you come to the number of 12. Okay, now let me read verse 13 of Ezekiel chapter 47, and then we'll finish up. Verse 13 of Ezekiel chapter 47 reads, Thus saith Yah, this shall be the border, whereby ye shall inherit the land according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions. The reason why Joseph has a double portion, because he is the firstborn. So he has a double portion, that being his sons Ephraim and Manasseh. All right. Now, let's go to Ezekiel 48. And we will read verse 8 through 14. Ezekiel 48. Ezekiel chapter 48. And we will read verse 8 through verse 14. And by the borders of Judah, from the east side unto the west gate, shall be the offering which ye shall offer of 25,000 reeds in breadth, and in length as one of the other parts, from the east side unto the west side, and the sanctuary shall be in the midst of it. So that sanctuary is going to be in the midst of the area of Judah. So you understand. All right, verse 9. The oblation that ye shall offer unto Yah shall be of 25,000 in length, and of 10,000 in breadth. And for them, even for the priests, shall be this holy oblation. So this holy land that was given unto the Most High, remember, the sanctuary is there, the priests are there. Okay? Once again, and for them, even for the priests, shall be this holy oblation. Towards the north, 25,000 in length, and towards the west, 10,000 in breadth, and towards the east, 10,000 in breadth, and towards the south, 25,000 in length. and the sanctuary of Yah shall be in the midst thereof. Okay, so the purpose of that holy land, okay, the holy oblation unto Yah was for his priest and for his holy place. So you understand that. All right, verse 11. It shall be for the priests that are sanctified of the sons of Zadok, which have kept my charge, which went not astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. So once again, this is speaking to Shiloh when Israel went astray and Eli and his sons went astray. Okay, but Zadok was always faithful and kept the Most High's charge. Okay, so that is to reiterate that point. All right, let's jump down to verse 14. And they shall not sell of it, neither exchange nor alienate the first fruit of the land, for it is holy unto Yah. Okay, so that may be established. All right. Now, let's go directly. We're finishing up with Ezekiel chapter 48. We'll read verse 31 through 35. Turn some lights on. All right. So we will finish up this lesson with Ezekiel chapter 48, and we will read verse 31 through 35. Now, as you come through verse 48, it lists out the children of Israel, etc. Speaks to the sanctuary, speaks to the house, okay? That way you can get a clear understanding of the Most High's house and exactly what the laws are pertaining to it. Now, let's go to, we're still in the same chapter, Ezekiel 48, and we're finishing up with verse 31 through 35, okay? Verse 31 reads, and the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel. Let's redo that, okay? And the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel. It's not after the Samoans, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Indians, the Arabs, or anyone else, okay? So all the gates, all these gates will be after the names of the children of Israel. All right. 3 gates northward, 1 gate of Reuben, 1 gate of Judah, 1 gate of Levi. Verse 32. And at the east side, 4,500, and 3 gates, and 1 gate of Joseph, 1 gate of Benjamin, 1 gate of Dan. Verse 33. And at the south side, 4,500 measures, and 3 gates, 1 gate of Simeon, 1 gate of Issachar, 1 gate of Zebulun. Verse 34. At the west side, 4,500, with their 3 gates, 1 gate of Gad, 1 gate of Asher, 1 gate of Naphtali. And the final verse, verse 35. It was round about 18,000 measures. And the name of the city from that day shall be Yah is there. All right. I wanted to do this lesson so you understand clearly, number 1, the kingdom is not in the sky. You hear these preachers, oh, we're going to meet in the air and all of that. No one is meeting in the air any place, okay? The Most High sanctuary, the Most High's holy city, the kingdom is not in heaven. It's on earth. It's in Jerusalem, where the 3rd temple will be built, where the Most High will be in his house, and the priests, the Levites, will minister unto him, and the Most High will be a fire round about his people in Jerusalem. You are not going into the sky, no place. The Most High said clearly he will dwell in the midst of us. Someone in the back is telling you, John the Revelator, whatever you call it, Revelations, John the Revelator, revealing what? All he is saying is bits and pieces twisted up of what Ezekiel have already told us. Okay? We already have this information. The Most High will do nothing but he reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophets. What we are reading out of is the books of the prophets. Now, if you look up prophets or books of the prophets, you will not see any prophet named John, Luke, Mark, Matthew, or any nonsense like that. These are Europeans. These are liars. These are enemies of our people. We are reading directly out of the book of the prophets right here. And it's being made plain to us through Ezekiel that the Most High says clearly he will dwell in the midst of us, as he did in the days of old. Not us going up in the sky and dwelling with him. Now, we also see clearly, and we should know clearly by now, that the Levites atoned for our sins, and no one has ever died for us. It is idolatry and it is a lie. Furthermore, if you ever hear anyone speaking of, I'm trying to get into the pearly gates, I'm trying to get in this gate. Now, let you understand this. We just read these gates in this holy city, in this holy kingdom, Jerusalem established on the earth. What does not exist is this. There's no such thing as a tribe of Israel called pearly. So there is no pearly gate, singular, and there are no pearly gates, plural. So all this trying to get through the pearly gate nonsense that you hear from our people and being gathered up in the air that you hear from our people cannot be substantiated by Yah or any of his prophets in this book. So what we are to do is to take a step back. We are to consider. We are to go into this book and read it. You don't know what a lie is unless you know what the truth is. You have to know both sides of the coin. If someone tells you a lie and you do not take the time to turn over a few rocks to substantiate what has been said, then that lie is indeed now your truth. Okay, and you will defend it simply because you lack the knowledge to contend with what was being said. But now you have the ability to read this book, so you can look at what the Most High and his prophets have said, and you can look at what the enemies of the Most High have said in this New Testament. And you can see clearly where these lies are. It is not hard once you've set your heart and soul to seek the Most High. Now, some of you, the Most High said he is found of by those who never sought for him. Some of you, I'm certain, have come to this channel, just kind of clicked on it to see what it was about, and all of a sudden found yourself here subscribed and reading the book. So there are those who are not going to even be looking for the Most High, but that will find him. But those who are seeking him will certainly find him. So we're to consider the errors of our ways, and we are to make these corrections. Okay? We have just listed these 12 gates. None of them has the name of pearly on it. We have just read where the kingdom will be established. We have just read where the holy city will be established. And nowhere in here does it say that this kingdom, this holy city that's going to be called Yah, is theirs in the sky. This is in Jerusalem. That's where that third temple shall be built. And it cannot be built unless Levites are on the premises. It cannot be built until the true house of Israel returns home. So what we are to do, we are to separate ourselves from the heathen. Number one, we're to stop seeking their desires and their ways. And our desire ought to be to commit ourselves to this book, to obey the Most High's laws, teach it to our children, and do them. Our objective and our ultimate goal is to be returned back to the land that was given to our forefathers. We are not to be in the midst of the heathen. This is simply a punishment. It is not to enter in our minds at all that we should be like the heathen. He will break us of that thought pattern. You can't be like him. And we have taken a hold of that. We've taken a hold of trying to be educated like the heathen. We want to be as rich as he is and have 10 houses and 50 cars. Just excess and greed. Okay, so we have seen what the heathen has done to us and what he has done in the midst of the nations. Nothing is ever enough for him. He is predicated on greed. If he made 10 million this year, that's not enough. Next year he wants to make twice as much. And then the next year twice as much of that. They are predicated with greed and wickedness. And if you seek after their way, your end, your fate will be as theirs. Destruction to the wicked. This is not the end that we're looking for. Our goal is to return back to the land that was given to our forefathers. We are not to dwell in the midst of the heathen, and we're not to let it come into our minds to think that we should ever be like them. Anyway, Israel, thy righteousness has been and thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. It has been roughly almost an hour lesson. I hope it has helped you in some way that you may understand how things are done in the Most High's temple, how things will be done in the latter days once the temple is established. Okay, and that will we understand what the protocols are once we're in this holy city, for those of us who are lucky enough to make it. Okay, so continue to turn towards Jerusalem. Lift your hands in prayer. Make sure that you turn, and when you do pray, that you make petition for yourself, your household. Okay, ask forgiveness for those of our ancestors, okay, from the ancient days who have transgressed the Most High's law, and certainly ask for and petition on the behalf of the entire house of Israel scattered throughout the earth, because I'm certain some of us are possibly praying in the wrong direction. Okay, so let's all go ahead and lift our hands in prayer, face Jerusalem, and make our supplication there, and make sure we do it for the entire house of Israel. That way, if someone is facing the wrong direction, we've got him covered. Okay, so ensure that you do that. Once again, stay in the Most High's law. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Peace, Israel.